Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program is about to begin.
Yeah, I was about to say a round of applause, everyone. You know, ladies and gentlemen, every time there is this resounding excitement for the FIFA Women's World Cup, there's always just an extra reserve of excitement and anticipation for a gathering such as this. This truly is a collective of the leading minds and powers in the women's game across the globe. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. To all of our honored guests, all of our dignitaries that are here. We've got great representation from the different confederations, to the representatives that are here from member associations, the FIFA Executive Committee members that are joining us for this wonderful initiative, technical development officers that are here. We've got instructors, members of the media, special guests. We've got some heroes, rather heroines of the beautiful game. And I think in totality, friends in football. Welcome to the 6th FIFA Women's Football Symposium. My name is Carol Shabalala. I'm a sportscaster from South Africa, a great friend of FIFA, and very, very passionate and vociferous about women's football and women in football. It's such an honor for me to be your moderator for the duration of the symposium. Now, this is going to be a very exciting and a very progressive 3 days, and as such, I'm sure each and every single one of you will want to share some of the wonderful conversations we will be having throughout the symposium. Just a reminder of our hashtags, because you know, in this day and age, it's all about social media rules. So if you do have your phones on silent, which I know that you do, just a reminder of our hashtags throughout the duration of the symposium. It's hashtag FIFA Women's World Cup, WWC, and hashtag live your goals. I'm sure that by the end of the symposium, we will be trending for some really, really good news. Now, as I said, this is such an important, such a grandiose occasion. You just look at the individuals that are gathered in this arena. And as such, I think it's very, very critical, and it certainly makes sense that we get the formalities perfectly underway by getting a word from our gracious host. Here's a word from FIFA President Sepp Blatter.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends from the FIFA member associations, greetings from Zurich to Vancouver, and welcome to the 6th FIFA Women's Football Symposium. FIFA's core mission is very clear: to develop football everywhere and for all. No matter who you are or where you are from, football is a game for everyone. That is the true spirit and the universal power of football, our game. We have come a long way in women's football since staging our first international women's tournament in Guangzhou in 1988, followed by the inaugural FIFA Women's World Cup in China in 1991. From 12 participating teams back then, we have doubled that number to 24 for the first time this year here. The most evident proof of this progress is right here, right now in Canada, where the biggest FIFA Women's World Cup to date has been drawing in record audiences on TV and social media platforms, and spectators. This fast-growing popularity gives the world of football a huge opportunity to take women's football to the next level, to encourage our members' association to do more, to inspire more girls to play, to inspire more women to take up other roles in football, from coaching and refereeing to administration to leadership. You can inspire the role models of tomorrow. And together with you, FIFA remains fully committed to supporting women's football and empowering women in football. I believe football and FIFA can be and should be leaders for positive change in society. Women's football is a great example for this change, thanks to its universality. It is played in all countries and all cultures, giving women the same rights as men on the field of play. Even when off the pitch, this is not always the case. I encourage you to use this symposium as an opportunity for an open, honest debate about how we should best invest and develop women's football further, and how we can improve opportunities to women in leadership in football and beyond. I also hope that you will find the speakers and sessions inspiring, so that we can work with renewed purpose and dedication to create a fairer, better world. For the game, for the world, for women's football. Thank you, and enjoy it.
Well, as you can hear, the President continues to support the upliftment of women's football, and definitely a gathering such as this one to truly make the beautiful game one that is for everyone. Well, you know, before even Sunday's final, I think we are already counting Canada 2015 as a resounding success. I think Canada really have been awesome hosts, and their team very, very competitive, very entertaining, and they've come through some tough fixtures, of course, to get to the quarterfinal stage. And even though the team did falter at the quarterfinal stage, I think the countrywide support for the FIFA Women's World Cup certainly has continued. And you take a look at you know, some of the wonderful learnings as well from Canadian soccer, some of the celebrations. For example, congratulations to young defender Kadisha Buchanan. She's one of the 3 finalists of the Hyundai Young Player Award. And I think this really is further testament to how Canadian soccer is improving in terms of really taking women's football to the next level. It's such an honor to have in our midst and here with us today the president of the Canadian Soccer Association. Please welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Victor Montaliani.
Good morning, everyone. Au nom de l'Association canadienne de soccer, nous désirons souhaiter la bienvenue à Lydia Sequeira, présidente du comité pour le football féminin de la Coupe du monde féminine de la FIFA et membre du comité exécutif de la FIFA. De même que les membres du comité exécutif de la FIFA, Moya Dodd, Sonia Bien-Aimé, Kozo Tashima, et Constance Lamani. Bienvenue. To our football family, I say a very special welcome for joining us here in Vancouver, my city. Welcome. I hope you get a chance to enjoy my beautiful city of Vancouver. And I apologize for the good weather. To FIFA, we extend our appreciation for the incredible opportunity to host the largest single sport event for women in the world. It has been our honor and our privilege to host the 2015 Women's World Cup. With just 2 days and 2 matches remaining in the 52-match expanded competition, Canada 2015 will soon come to a conclusion. After 30 days of exciting football across our 5 time zone in our 6 official host cities from coast to coast. Canada has embraced the women's game from inception. Beyond a significant investment in a national women's team program, we have also successfully staged the inaugural FIFA U19 Women's World Championship 2002, the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in 2014, and of course, the FIFA Women's World Cup Canada 2015. In addition to taking on the financial risk of staging these competitions, the Canadian Soccer Association has provided strong financial support to our teams to ensure they have the best opportunity to be successful. Competing for a FIFA World Cup involves a minimum of a 10-year plan. Ours started back in 2010, and Canada is well positioned to benefit from the legacy of 2015 as we look forward to France 2019, to Rio next summer, and to World Cups beyond. We are confident that for the first time ever in our history, where we won a group stage, that is only the beginning for our women's program. Having competed in 6 of the 7 editions of the FIFA Women's World Cup marks our second best result in a 6th place finish. Back in 2010, when we bid for the FIFA Women's World Cup, we spoke to being ready to welcome the world. In our stadiums, our operations and record crowds representative of our multicultural heritage certainly prove this to be true. Nous avons promis une foule à domicile pour les nations participantes et le 1
participant nations that we would do our best, and the over 1 million members who watched the matches showed that this was true. Canada is about to break the record for attendance.
All participants, and in particular our Canadian women's national team, has certainly strived to a greater goal, both on and off the pitch. We could not be more proud of our team and how they have represented our country. They had tremendous pressure, like most host nations do, to perform, and they showed Canadians and the world the true role models that they are. I'd like to thank my head coach, John Herdman, and the entire team for their commitment and dedication. Future generations of Canadian soccer players have been inspired to wear the maple leaf. As the 3rd largest country with participation per capita by women and girls. An important legacy of this tournament is the inspiration of a new generation of players. And it is our job as the Canadian Soccer Association to align the women's game and ensure these young players will have a path that ensures their success. More Sinclairs more often is a phrase we have heard many times from our head coach, and the Regional Excellence Program is the blueprint for this to happen. The establishment of regional training centers in our country provides an alignment for the women's game, from U13 through to the senior levels, in collaboration with our member association and clubs, and reaches well over 100 players in our Excellence Program. Another step that was taken in preparation for the FIFA Women's World Cup 2015 was the establishment of the National Women's Soccer League. I'm very proud of this effort. It is a joint effort by our association, the United States Federation, and Mexico. And I think kudos also goes to my colleague Sunil Gulati, president of USSF, who had the vision to start this when we were back in London in 2012. This has resulted in more professional opportunities for Canadian players than ever before. It is our hope that the success of the FIFA Women's World Cup Canada 2015, from an attendance perspective, demonstrates the potential of the women's game in Canada, ultimately spurring on investment to expand the league north to Canada. From coast to coast, the growth of the game from grassroots through to high performance will be possible through the building and enhancement of 18 world-class training fields in our 6 official host cities that will allow our young players to access year-round training. Reaching beyond the traditional soccer experience, the sport of soccer was delivered for the first time in the school system across our country, where over 1.1 million students participating in Move, Think, Learn Soccer in Focus, a partnership with Physical Health and Education Canada that was delivered in grades 4 through 9. Interesting to note that this number was greater than the total number of registered participants in the sport of our country, doubling the reach of our sport. Representing over 100 nationalities, with the youngest just 16 years old, volunteers will have a positive impact in their communities long after the final whistle blows. Over 2,100 people have devoted more than 80,000 hours to ensure the tournament is a success. In addition, there were over 1,000 youth players from over 50 clubs that took part in the youth program. Beyond the volunteer legacy, professional staff have also been developed through Canada 2015, with an emphasis on developing women in leadership roles. Over 65% of the staff complement were women. We also have 3 board members that are amongst you here today that also make up our board. 25% of the board of directors of Canadian Soccer is women. Many are gaining a valuable experience in the sport of soccer and large event hosting that will benefit Canada for years to come. We're also fortunate in our country from a senior leadership role, and I think it behooves me to actually acknowledge that we're very lucky in our association. We have a very senior leadership, and one of our key senior leaders who is amongst you here today, both in the Canadian Soccer Association and the FIFA Women's World Cup, is Sandra Gage. She represents, I think, the epitome of what a professional really is, and I think for women in sport, it's something that we're very proud of in this country. You're going to be engaged in the next 2 days in many, many discussions, and I'd like to leave you with 2 words that I think are very important. I've had the opportunity over the last 5 years to really be engaged, obviously, in the FIFA Women's World Cup and with our women's national team. But I think it's very important that if this game is to move forward on the women's side, that we really need to focus, and I believe, on 2 words. One is consciousness. And it is no longer good enough to just raise the consciousness of women in sport. You need to raise the consciousness of men. And I think that is very, very important. The other thing is that we need to look at the next frontier for women's football is sustainability. The sustainability not just in the grassroots level or at the national team level or at the World Cup, but it's the in-between. It's at the professional level. I think we need to look at the sport like it is in my country, where it really transcends the gender. I have the opportunity of living with 3 women 2 girls and my wife. And both my girls play football. And what I like to tell my girls is that they're not women footballers, they're footballers. And I think that's the message that I want to leave with you, is that I think if our sport is to grow, if the women's game needs to grow, we need to look at the sustainability of the sport, to make decisions on the business side of the sport that make the sport sustainable. And so I leave you with that. In closing, I hope that you enjoy your experience here in our country and the great football that you'll see this weekend. And I thank you all for helping us reach to a greater goal for women's football around the world. And I wish the teams the best of luck in 3rd place in the final. And I wish you some fantastic deliberations over the next 2 days while you enjoy my beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Montagliani, for those wonderful words. And yeah, you said you have the wonderful opportunity of living with 3 women. You have the great pleasure of living with 3 women. Thank you also for stressing the fact that even before that final whistle on Sunday, even before we celebrate the champions here in Canada 2015, I think we can give you a round of applause to the hosts for a wonderful job done, and of course for making us feel welcome here in Canada. So one of the topics of discussion today is going to be governance. I mean, we stress it so much again and again that it's so important to have these sterling examples of women in leadership in the world of sport. We definitely have one of those, plenty individuals actually in this room, but we're going to be hearing from one of them now as we continue to welcome all of you here. Please welcome FIFA Executive Committee member. She's also a member of the International Olympic Committee. She's just a great example of women in leadership, Ms. Lydia Nsekera.
Mesdames, Messieurs les membres du comité exécutif de la
Gentlemen,
FIFA,
members of the
Mesdames,
executive
Messieurs les présidents des
committee,
associations membres,
president, chairman
Mesdames
of
les responsables du
member
football
associations, all those
Mesdames,
in
Messieurs
charge
les
of
experts du
women's
féminin,
football, experts
Mesdames,
in
Messieurs membres
women's
de la
football,
Commission du football
members
féminin de la Coupe du Monde
of the commission of the
Chers
football
instructeurs, arbitres,
commission, dear
Mesdames, Messieurs,
coaches, dear referees,
féminin
ladies
n'a
and
cessé de
gentlemen,
prospérer au
hello.
cours des dernières décennies.
Women's football
L'institution de la FIFA
has
qui aide ses associations
continually
à créer
grown
des
and improved in the last decade and has created opportunities for women and referees in order to ensure that they can be involved in women's football. In 2014, 177 member associations have responded to a survey. 14% of junior football players are girls. This number is increasing. 79% of association members have a competitive event of high level. 61% have participated in the World Cup. 24 teams are playing this FIFA Women's World Cup in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, on the competition field, has been a great improvement. Outside of the competition, things are different. It's a different game that we have not yet won. Women coaches, referees, heads of national associations are not sufficient in numbers. When we go back to the survey, the 2014 survey, the number of women in football is still to be improved. For instance, the average number of women in an executive committee is 1. It's 8% of the total numbers of the members of the executive committee. 7% of women are coaches are women. The percentage of referees 10% for women. Out of 209 member associations, 2 are chaired by women. The president of the FIFA said, and I quote, "We have to have more women at the helm." With the determination, with the president of FIFA, the commitment to women's football and the promotion of women in football, this is a fact and is going to become a reality. In 2012, we approved for a woman to become a member of the executive. In 2013, a woman was elected to the executive committee of the FIFA, and in the same committee, 2 women were introduced. In 2015, women organized its first conference on the Women's Committee, and we wanted to create more representation by women. At the end of the conference, FIFA adopted the Brighton Declaration and the Helsinki Declaration on women and sport. It provides the basic principles in order to increase women's participation at all levels of the sport. FIFA suggests that for 2015 to 2018, there be 9 development programs in women's leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, FIFA cannot get things moving without the active support of the 209 member associations. Women's football will only have leaders if we as women commit to showing them the path to change. The progress that we want to accomplish cannot be accomplished by women fighting alone, only for themselves. We need men's cooperation. Those who are leaders in women's football, I have experience in Burundi and have been involved in 3 electoral campaigns and have been managed a D club since 2014, and so I can give you a little bit of advice. Participate in the active life of your member association. Join men's clubs and be active members. These are the clubs that constitute the Congress of the member associations. And you have to communicate with the voters. And you also have to gain experience in terms of how to campaign. You have to know the eligibility criteria in order to get a leadership position in a club or in a league. One has to do one's best to get elected, either in the league or in the member association. Get ready to work hard with men, and not only in women's football. Dear sisters, one of the obstacles linked to women's access to leaders' positions is the hesitation of women to run for election. We have knowledge in order to lead. We might just need to be reminded that we have these skills. We have to dare run for election. Just as for any competition, there will be victories and there will be defeats. But running is the only way to get to a leadership position. Ladies and gentlemen, the International Olympic Committee has held a study in 2010 where several questions were asked of women leaders in the International Olympic Committee, women who were already holding positions or who were running for election. The report says that the qualities, the competencies, the skills of the woman running and social resources, the trust, the confidence that the woman has helped certain women to get elected by men. The report goes on to say that the social status and experience in business experience can also provide women with sufficient confidence to run for election and in order to be able to promote their policies publicly. In the same report, the people who were asked emphasized the importance of the help of a tutor or a mentor. The role of mentors, who are often influential men in sports, is essential for the presence of women and their election, where those who vote are mainly men. Dear presidents and chairs of member associations, in 2012, during the convention of the FIFA, you agreed to have a woman on the executive, and in 2013 you elected a woman, and 2 other women joined. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Can you play an active role by supporting a woman running for a position in your member association? Your support as a mentor is extremely important. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the 6th Symposium on Women's Football to talk about the development of women's football and the role of women in football. Thank you very much.
Wow, very, very powerful words from Ms. Nsekera. Thank you so much for not just talking the talk, but she certainly is walking it. I mean, she's such a fantastic example. Some very, very strong words, and she has made the call to all of you ladies. You know that you've got the abilities, so dare to shine, dare to stand out, and join the likes of Lydia and really take up those leadership positions so that we can accelerate the progress of women's football across the globe. All right, so plenty to get through today, but it's a very, very exciting lineup of today's program. So let's get our house in order before we get into those formalities. Please, can you once again make sure that your mobile phones are put on silent? I know a lot of you already want to get connected on the internet and start talking about what it is that you are hearing here today. Just a reminder, in terms of Wi-Fi access, make sure that you log on to FIFA_WWC, and the password for the Wi-Fi is FIFA 2015. Now, the first third of today's program will see us hearing from 2 great individuals. After a short break, you will, of course, get into our first topic of the day, which is governance. You'll hear from 2 great speakers before getting an opportunity to give your input and, of course, further discussions via the breakout sessions. After lunch, we will then collate all of the findings from those breakout sessions in an insightful podium discussion. Again, we'll have 1 speaker after that to set the tone for the breakout sessions and the ensuing podium discussion. We'll then be introduced to a wonderful program for women's football in Africa before we wrap up today's proceedings. So it's a really full and exciting itinerary in prospect, so let's get started, shall we? I think it really is so hard to believe that it's been 4 years since we got together like this in Frankfurt, Germany. The time has flown by, but boy, oh boy, has it been busy and has it been exciting. Women's football is very much alive and well. Just take a look at the highlights. Fantastic. It's been quite the journey, hasn't it? Yeah. From Germany to Canada really has been a wonderful journey. It has been riddled with a few challenges, but I think more so great triumphs and strides that have been taken in the advancement of women's football as a whole. But why all the fuss? Why all the focus on women's football in particular? It's very simple, really. It is because women and girls, as you can see, are essential for the development of football as a whole. It really is essential to bringing added value to the beautiful game, essential for the well-being of football, and of course making sure that it is all-inclusive and ensuring that it continues to shine as the most celebrated sporting code in the globe. So let's quickly look back at some of the key moments since a hugely successful FIFA Women's World Cup in Germany in 2011. Well, we had the third installment of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup held for the very first time, and here was another great celebration and a great stride that was taken in women's football, held for the first time in a Muslim country, in Azerbaijan. A clear symbol that this really and truly is a game for all, one that unifies different cultures, different religions, different individuals. I think the final itself really was the coup d'etat for a great tournament because we had Korea DPR coming up against France. Beautiful and symbolic, of course, of the culmination of this East meets West. Then, of course, we had Costa Rica 2014, another first to be staged in Central America here. Another great success and a triumph as well, being in a tournament, or rather seeing a tournament record for spectators in Costa Rica. We also had the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in Japan, another milestone to be celebrated here, the first hosting of a FIFA Women's Football tournament in the country. Canada 2014, well, we know that this was very, very important for the hosts in preparing them for this year's stellar showpiece. Then, of course, we had our Olympic competitions. The women's football competition at London 2012. It was the first major FIFA-affiliated women's tournament to be staged within the United Kingdom, and it marked the first time that a team representing Great Britain actually took part in the women's tournament. They made it to the knockout stage, so that was great. As for the final, 80,000 spectators packed into Wembley Stadium. Really awesome. But overall, in terms of looking at participation and the nations that took part in this, I think that, yes, we are seeing improvement, but we could do so much better and have more nations participating in the qualifying stages of competitions such as this. We also had the 2014 Summer Youth Olympic Games in Nanjing, China, which saw the hosts, of course, clinching gold. So great strides, and it's been a wonderful journey. Which of course brings us to the current success and the current celebrations, that is the FIFA Women's World Cup here in Canada. It's the first time that the hosts have really done such a tremendous job as the first time hosts of this event of welcoming the world. They've really done well so far. The tournament, as we know, was expanded from 16 teams in Germany 2011 to 24 teams here. So we had 8 teams celebrating making their debut at the World Cup. It really has been a top draw competition, as I'm sure each and every single one of you will agree. And we are expecting the attendance figures to only get better after the final. Now, when we look at progress in terms of the member associations, we'll get to that though. But I think what was really also very, very exciting, and I really love this initiative, this program that was launched during the FIFA Women's World Cup in Germany 2011, Live Your Goals. I mean, this really has become one of the leading campaigns, a standout campaign, courtesy of FIFA, in developing the game for girls and for women the world over. We've got tens of thousands of girls that are participating, and just recently we had over 10,000 individuals pledging their support to this program all over the world. I'm one of those individuals. Now, when we look at progress, in particular in member associations, as you see, 78% of member associations have a women's national league. That's something to be celebrated, but at the same time, of course, we want to keep working to reach that 100% mark. More players are being introduced to the beautiful game and getting involved. We're seeing more coaches, women, getting involved as well, and an overall improvement for member associations. Now, another great stride that has been taken and a great triumph certainly has to be the task force for women's football that was put together. And this was, of course, a task force that formulated 10 key development principles for the advancement of women's football. Now, we are going to hear all about that very, very shortly, about the outcomes. But I think the real triumph here from this task force was the fact that these principles were approved by the 64th FIFA Congress in June 2014. I think that deserves a round of applause. Not just that, but also the approval of the doubling of development funds for women's football. So moving forward, these are the key objectives for FIFA, and of course it involves all of us. We want to see football as the #1 female team sport. Every woman and girl must have an opportunity and must be given an opportunity to play the beautiful game. We want to see more opportunities for women in football, from leadership on and off the pitch. We want to build sustainable competitions for women and girls across the globe. And we want to see all of this being we want to see fully integrated, member associations, or all of these goals being fully integrated in the member associations. So very, very ambitious in terms of what it is that we want to, in the long run, achieve. And it is very, very possible. But on the road to making this all a possibility, we're very aware that we are faced with a few challenges. A few of those, of course, being that we've got very few female decision makers in the game at the moment, very little access to qualified technical experts, an adequate player pathway for those individuals that are already in the process, infrastructure that is available. We need more infrastructure to be available. We need high investment in women's football, exposure, and media coverage. It's there, but we want to see even more of that coming across. So we know what the challenges are, but the good news is that there are many more opportunities to counter these challenges. And these are, of course, the fact that we've got over 30 million women and girls involved in the beautiful game, interested in the beautiful game. There's an increased interest by the global community. We're seeing faster development and growth. Sponsors, the corporate society is getting more and more involved in the growth. There's a platform for international participation, and we're seeing this direct impact on social development. So what is our ultimate goal? Well, we are aspiring to see at least 45 million girls and women playing football by 2019. And it is possible with all of your help. Yeah, I think that deserves a round of applause. Now, I did say, that's another one of our hashtags, by the way, hashtag Live Your Goals. It's a hashtag that has been utilized, throughout, since, of course, this wonderful program was launched in 2011. And you can continue to showcase your support as well by talking about the wonderful work that has come through this campaign and, of course, sharing that particular hashtag. Now, I did say that we are going to put a little bit more focus and emphasis on one of the most exciting developments on our journey from 2011 to 2015. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage now, Australian soccer official and former player, Vice President of the Asian Football Confederation. She's a FIFA Executive Committee member who chaired the task force that developed, of course, those 10 key development principles for women's football. To tell us more about all of this, a round of applause, Ms. Moya Dodd.
Thank you and good morning. It's great to be here amongst you, committee colleagues, member association delegates, confederation delegates, and of course our FIFA instructors who are also with us joining for the symposium. Good morning and thank you for your welcome. It's fantastic to be here today with you all. These occasions are all too rare where you have the women's football enthusiasts and change makers all in a room together from all around the world. So thank you for joining us, and we're in for a good couple of days, I think. Today I want to talk to you about FIFA's 10 principles to progress women's football. If you haven't read them, or if you don't have a copy, search up FIFA 10 Principles and you'll find it as the first return. So for those of you watching online, please take a look. What I'd like to do in our time together today is tell you a little bit about how they got there and some real-life practices where those who are working to develop the game have brought them into reality. And I hope what you take out of it is an inspired belief that you can do the same. So these principles began with a discussion in the FIFA Women's Football Task Force, and I'd like to thank the members of that task force for their work over the last year and a half. We talked about what our dream was for the game and what we felt were the major hurdles to those dreams, the places where we got stuck. And as we started to talk, we talked with each other, we talked with the members of the FIFA Women's Committees, and with colleagues around the world. We talked about how those problems could become unstuck. And this was the result, our top 10 things that could change the world of women's football for the better. And after presenting this to the Executive Committee, we were given the approval to take these principles to the FIFA Congress for their approval in Brazil a year ago. If you haven't been to a FIFA Congress, it looks something like this. Hundreds of people in a vast room representing 209 member associations in FIFA. And we wanted not only the Executive Committee to agree, but we wanted every member nation to understand and agree those principles as well, so that all of you in the room today could know that your federation, your president, has signed on. So this is what it looks like when a Congress says yes. They hold up their green cards, and it was a milestone for sure, but what's important is not the words, but what actions they inspire. And in the year that's passed since then, what's happened to fulfil those words, to unblock the problems and to make football better? Well, let's take a look. The first principle, women's football is a huge opportunity and every member association should have a plan to grow it. Plans demand resources, plans guide actions, and actions can then be measured against the plan, and the wheels turn. So from this year, FIFA's development guidelines have required that each member association lodging a request for support should also lodge their plan. There have been over 120 member associations looking for support. That's 120 plans. Some are more developed than others, but they all trigger actions towards a goal. And the most developed countries, look at the top 4 in this tournament, look at Japan, USA, Germany, England, they got to where they got to because they made plans to grow. And those who will join them at the top will be right now planning to do so. From the smaller nations, here's an example, Northern Ireland. You can see the cover of their plan on the screen. Their plan includes strategic goals in key areas like grassroots, league development, coach education, and the inclusion of women in governance. It sets out where they're going and the steps to get there. On the other side of the world, St. Lucia is another example of a well-thought-out plan which is linked to sustainable support from FIFA development and other partners. Our next World Cup hosts, France, they made a plan. It included hosting the FIFA Women's World Cup. And their participation numbers grew by 10,000 just during the bidding process. That's the power of planning. Progress is not an accident. It's a result of planning and focus. So what's your plan to get where you want to be? These next couple of days, I think you'll have the chance to think about that. The second principle, accessibility. The biggest reason why women's football isn't as big as men's yet is that it has not been as accessible to us. I don't need to explain to you the cultural, social, systemic, and sometimes legal, or maybe illegal, barriers that keep us from the game, or the discrimination that can hold us back once we're in it. Our principle, football should always be as accessible to girls as it is to boys. Equal access for children should underpin a lifetime of equality in the game. A good example, Soccer Sisters in Samoa adopted there to open up accessibility for girls in a region where girls' sport was not traditionally developed. Another is the hijab rule. When we all met 4 years ago, I remember hearing the pleas for IFAB to change the rules to let women play in a headscarf. I'm glad to say that's changed. And now around 500 million, 500 million Muslim women in the world can know that this aspect of their culture is no barrier to them playing football. Third principle, elite competitions. Developing visible, professionalised competitions is great for those who are good enough to play in them, but it's much more important than that. It feeds the dreams of every girl watching and teaches every boy that his sister and mother also belong in the game. And as the world shrinks and media crosses country borders, this impact spreads around the world, even to our least developed member. Professionalised leagues are a work in progress, but let's acknowledge some great progress that's been made. The Swedish League recently signed a broadcast deal for every one of its matches. The NWSL, supported by USA, Canada and Mexico, recently announced a deal with Fox to broadcast some of its matches. The English League cut a deal with BT Sport for matchday broadcast and added a second division with promotion and relegation. And of course, Germany and France continue to excel. There are many others growing all around the world. These leagues are home to players from all over the world, giving high-level opportunities to outstanding footballers from Africa, South America, Asia and elsewhere. We need professionalised daily training environments to incubate excellence for our game, for our product, women's football. It's no secret that I'd love to see a FIFA Women's Club World Cup so that we could showcase that excellence at club level on the world stage every year, creating global heroes and raising the profile of our game annually. Equity in development is important, but so is excellence, because that bears dividends for us all. Fourth principle, marketing and promotion. We need more of it, we all know that. It takes many forms, media coverage, broadcast distribution, gaming, and in-sponsor activations as well. So here's a couple of cheer points. The presence of female players in video games. Hooray for that, EA, finally. And yes, I think I'm going to buy one for my daughter now. She's insisting on it. And some of the dreadful misogynistic reactions and the trolls we've seen in the digital world in reaction to this announcement, well, that just shows how much it's needed. So good progress. Thanks, EA. And this ad from South Africa, I love it. It absolutely sums up how strong, healthy footballers can make the next generation dream of being the same. Which parent can resist this image in the mirror, the little girls looking at their heroes, imagining themselves, projecting themselves into the mirror and seeing themselves as footballers in years to come? The fifth principle, retaining and using women's football expertise. Women's football is different to men's in some ways. Knowing all about men's football isn't the same as knowing all about women's football. Some things are different on the field, and nearly everything is different off it. Knowledge and experience is hard won, and it's critical to good decision making. Let's learn from our own history. Let's avoid repeating mistakes of the past. So here's a couple of champions who are carrying the learnings of yesterday into decisions for tomorrow. Marika Demansky-Lyfors, she's here today. She's the former Sweden coach, took her team to the final in 2003, also coached in China. She's now technical director for Sweden. That's for both men's and women's, by the way. And she's a member of FIFA's Under-17 World Cup organising committee. You can queue for photos with her later because she's here. And Jackie Chipanga from Namibia. Experience as a coach and a technical expert is rolling forward into the game, making it better tomorrow than it was yesterday. This is the kind of expertise that we need to retain and keep in the game. Sixth, target former players and referees. Also in the room today, these two. Do you know who they are? Do you know who they are and their place in history? Well, you should. They should be celebrated. On the right, Heidi Store from Norway, the first captain ever to lift a FIFA World Trophy in 1988. On the left, April Heinrichs, the first captain to lift the FIFA Women's World Cup in 1991. As former players, the game still lives in them. they're active in the game, they're leading the future. So can I ask them to stand up? April, I know you're here. Heidi. And can I ask any other 88ers? Any other 88ers to stand up, please? Any players from 1988 or 1991 Women's World Cups? Can we see you? Can you stand up? Come on, I know you're here. Thank you. Can any players who've played on their national team, any women's national team players in the room today, stand up? There's some pretty famous people in the room. You should know who they are. Thank you. I hope you notice Sun Wen, player of the century from last century, also in the room, standing up on her feet. These are the people we need to keep in the game. The game moves in them, it breathes in them, and they have so much to contribute. The collective experience of those who stood is probably hundreds of years of football. And in a young game, with the FIFA World Cup only around 25 years old, that's priceless. And there's many other roles, of course, for ex-players and ex-referees. And if you recognise the person holding the ball in that photograph, that's Sonia Denoncourt. She's made an enormous contribution to refereeing in football over the years. That's her on the field some years ago, and you'll know she spent many years in FIFA and now at CONCACAF, making a huge contribution to women's refereeing. There are many other roles. Beck Smith, former New Zealand player, is working in FIFA. Jill Ellis is coaching. Ariane Hinkst, Cara Lang, Kelly Smith, all in the media you've seen during the World Cup. There are so many players who are making contributions to our game that are important. Their visibility and their credible expertise is one of the things that will help our game grow. Women coaches, the seventh principle. Only 7% of our coaches globally are female. We heard that from Lydia a moment ago. Only 8 of the 24 head coaches at this World Cup are women. But let me say that those who are here are disproportionately successful. Of the last 6 world title winners, the last 3 World Cups and the last 3 Olympics, 5 of those medals were for teams coached by women. And there's no doubt in my mind that women are cut out to be coaches at all levels, including at the highest level. And we're more likely to stay in the women's game, so $1 invested in a women coach is more likely to yield a return over the long term in women's football. But just like the corporate world, we experience a glass ceiling where at a certain point our representation becomes limited. FIFA recently pledged to support women coaches by asking that teams bring at least 1 female coach on their staff when attending the Under-17 FIFA Women's World Cup in Jordan next year. This isn't a measure that will dilute the quality of coaching. Far from it. In fact, quite the opposite. This is a measure that will ensure that the full talent pool is considered by selection panels who make coach appointments. And I've no doubt that some of the coaches that we'll see next year in Jordan will go on to show that the faith in them was well justified. The 8th principle, including women in governance and management. Our principle is that there should be at least 1 woman on each exco around the world. And to its credit, FIFA has led the way. The executive committee room at FIFA was inhabited solely by male members for 108 years, until Lydia Nisquera joined them. Lydia, Sonia Bienami and myself now comprise 3 of 27 members. But this isn't a job for 3 of us. This is a job for all of us, to involve ourselves in football at all levels. Not only at the executive committee layer, but also in management throughout the organisations. FIFA's leadership program is about to kick off its first edition with 35 promising future leaders taking part. From my perspective, it's inevitable that women will take a larger role in leading football. The only question is how best to make it happen sooner. Studies suggest that 30% is the tipping point in a committee room at which we cease being a special interest group and our participation in the game becomes normalised. And I'd love to see football get to that point sometime soon. Principle 9, incubating women's football within organisational structures. To succeed, our game needs focus. It's hard to succeed when you are no one's first priority. There are many ways to structure an organisation, but however that's done, it's essential that the game be incubated with a focus that will enable it to thrive. Germany is a great example of this over a long period of time. Women's football was incubated through planning, through organisational structures, and through continuity of personnel. Still in the DFB is Tina Turner, she's on the left, a legendary national team coach, playing a technical role. Heike Ulrich has been an ever-present over many years, now running competitions like the Frauen-Bundesliga. Coach Sylvia Nade will remain in the DFB after the next coach takes over, already announced to be Steffi Jones. So there's decades and decades of experience, all utilised for the benefit of today and tomorrow. The 10th principle, our social responsibility. Football doesn't exist in a vacuum. Our experiences in football mirror our experiences in the world. And we live in a world where women are systemically disadvantaged. This is a picture of the Sports and Leadership Training Academy in Cambodia, the SALT Academy, where football is used as a means to protect girls from human trafficking, which is an enormous problem in the region and which affects girls especially. Here's our principle. Let's not allow football to be a place where the worst human tendencies can make a home and fester. Football is such a powerful force in setting behavioural norms in society, including and especially how women are treated, that we have a huge opportunity to lead rather than lag. We can give our girls all the benefits that football brings while showing our boys that their sister belongs right beside them as a full participant in sport, in society, and in leadership. We have the opportunity not just to change football, but to change the world. So, change makers, enjoy your couple of days at this symposium, and thank you for your attention.
Wow, thank you so much, Ms. Dodd, for taking us through those key principles for taking the women's game to even greater heights, and more so for the wonderful work that you did and the members, of course, of that task force. Now, I think we all agree that in order to accelerate the advancement of the beautiful game, it is going to take a collective effort to really fast track all of this. It's so pivotal that women take a leading role in it. To speak about this and so much more, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage now a great pioneer for women's football since 1978. She's the CEO of the ACT Football Federation from Australia. Please welcome Ms. Heather Reid.
Bonjour and g'day. Thank you very much for the very warm welcome and the opportunity to speak to you today, although I feel it's a little bit of a hard act to follow from the previous speakers and particularly my colleague from Australia, Moya, but no doubt you'll now be used to the Australian accent. As I look around this wonderful room, I'm inspired by the power of football to unite and connect men and women from different cultures and communities across the world. This is indeed one of the most valuable aspects of football and is especially significant as FIFA embarks on the very imperative and vital structural and strategic reform. Everyone at this symposium, as well as many others around the world, have a role to play in the reform process, which is expected to lead to improvements in the governance, the management, and of course the public perception of football. Many of us are hoping to see greater transparency and accountability for decisions, as well as increased involvement by women in football. As women's participation continues to evolve, women in football must be the part of the reform process. We must give special consideration to the power of the women's game and that of women in football to inform and influence the changes and the outcomes that we all desire. But how can women influence the change process? Any attempts to regenerate football must take into account strategies, policies, and programs that address the cultural, the social, the gender, and the political barriers that limit women's participation. Having been involved in many different areas of football for over 35 years, and as the only female CEO among 9 member federations in the Football Federation Australia family, I have a very personal understanding of the barriers that women face. And whilst I wasn't afforded the opportunity to stand up as a player in those early tournaments, I was certainly there helping to lead and develop the women's game for players in Australia. But we know the barriers. We've heard some of the examples this morning already. To be quite clear, the barriers include institutionalised sexism and systemic discrimination, which must be remedied if change is to occur. This will require the application of sound governance principles, including adherence to gender equity and inclusion policies. It is well known, as Moya pointed out, that adherence to gender equity and other policies have higher levels of productivity, which ultimately improve organisations' bottom line in terms of finance and other things. And even though the women's game has received increasing amounts of commercial, media and public attention since the President, Mr. Blatter, declared in 1995, following the success of the second Women's World Cup, that the future of football is feminine, there is much, much more work to be done for women in football. Having been at the FIFA Invitational Tournament for women in China in 1988, and also the only Australian representative at the first Women's World Cup 3 years later in Guangzhou, China, plus having attended another 4 Women's World Cups since then, I have seen firsthand the progress in women's competitions, which have of course led to the wonderful examples that we've heard this morning. We have, in the very short space of just over 20 years, a full Women's World Cup, an Under-20s World Cup, an Under-17s World Cup, as well as an Olympic Games program for women, which for many countries is vital for attracting government and commercial support, as well as more media and marketing opportunities. We've also heard that the number of teams qualifying for Women's World Championships has increased significantly since that first year, in the first tournament in 1991. And of course, having 24 finalists here with 8 new countries is absolutely fantastic. These women's tournaments help to inspire, encourage and excite the future prospects for all of us. However, and there's always a however or a but, even though the number of female participants in competitions has increased significantly, women continue to be underrepresented in every other area of football. Whilst this is not very different to other sports or indeed to other industries, the world game of football has the capacity to lead the way through action plans that articulate how our sport can be accessible to everyone regardless of gender. This must include assurances that the current lack of women in coaching, in refereeing and in leadership does not discourage more women from getting involved. I call this the grass ceiling rather than the glass ceiling. We need men and women to work together to support women's football and women in football. And we need men to challenge the double standards when they occur, such as when the way in which women or male players are portrayed in the media. From my personal experience, I know that participation in football can improve the status and role of women in sport and in society. I also know that women in football can help to enhance the image and value of football at every level. So in this context, any discussion on the importance of women to and within football needs to be based on gender issues being whole of sport issues and not just women's issues. The player pathway for girls and women from grassroots participation to world-class competitions highlights how football can offer a unique point of difference over many other team sports. These opportunities help to inspire and provide hope to girls and women throughout the world. But we need more resources and more energy directed towards appropriate marketing and promotion of competition, towards celebrating women's achievements, and to building local competitions, developing and providing opportunities to coaches and referees and leaders. Football also provides scope for career development. 35 years in the game, somehow I'm still here, such as being proactive about transition programs for retiring players to become referees or coaches or engagement in other areas. It's quite clear that women's participation in football delivers added status and glory. It elevates identity and pride. It enhances the profile of countries whilst also contributing to the social fabric and the social capital of local communities. Women's football is providing inspiration to generations of girls and women to get involved at whatever suitable and appropriate level. Females of all ages are enjoying the fun, the fitness and the friendship that football offers, as well as the self-esteem and the confidence and the leadership that football can provide. Following the adoption of the FIFA 10 key principles that Moya has just outlined, as well as the success of this current World Cup, women's football is receiving more attention than ever before. And whilst most of the attention is on team performances, there's also a great deal of attention and discourse on the inequities between female and male players and female and male competitions. As men and boys are afforded the exhilaration, passion, excitement, and financial reward of their involvement in football, then women and girls must be afforded equitable experiences and benefits in ways that challenge their lives and improve their lives forever. Indeed, I was flying from New York to Vancouver last night, and I sat beside this woman and her family, 2 daughters and a husband, and we started chatting about what we were doing. And I was absolutely overwhelmed by the fact that this family was coming from Kentucky specifically to come to the final in the World Cup. And the girls played football, soccer. They knew the players, they knew the teams, and they knew the thrill of what soccer can provide. They had their sticker book, and they were going through the teams and telling me who was from what team. But the mother almost jumped out of her seat when I'd mentioned that I'd been to many women's tournaments and that I had seen players like April Heinrich and Mia Hamm and Brandy Chastain and Sun Wen and Heidi Storr, etc., playing when they were teenagers, not too much of a different age to her daughter. But this to me provided greater excitement and indication that her daughters are looking at the current players and previous ones as role models and as players that they want to emulate and be like. And the woman said she'd never played football or soccer, but she said, once you're hooked on soccer, you're always hooked on soccer. So, we can turn to various international instruments that acknowledge women's participation in sport as a human right and fundamental to an egalitarian society. For example, the United Nations Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, the International Working Group, Brighton Declaration, the Beijing Platform for Action, which was a United Nations conference which, the first time sport appeared on a women's agenda, and the 2014 IWG statement from Helsinki, all enforced the need for equity and equality in sport, as it should be in society. Together with the key principles adopted by FIFA and FIFA's recent endorsement of the Brighton Declaration and the Helsinki Statement, these things enable us to celebrate and acknowledge the great progress that FIFA is making. However, the proof of the value of these decisions will be how FIFA influences the future direction, the status and the role of women and girls in all functions at all levels of football within all member federations. And I think we're going to hear from feminist and academic Carol Oglesby later in the program about just what this means in terms of the broader context for society. So what can member associations do to support and work with FIFA in remedying the challenges that we all face? Part of the answer lies within the research conducted last year by FIFA, and we've already heard from Lydia about that. The FIFA report concluded that there is an overall need and priority for increased financial support and investment in women's football. And this is a matter of urgency by all member associations. Investment in women's football and women in football is also the biggest challenge for women's football to move to the next level in all confederations. If we are going to truly capitalise on our achievements to date, then member associations must allocate more time, resources and funding for the development of women's football and to women in football. 2/3 of my football career was spent in leading and developing football for women under separate football associations, separate structures. For the past 12 years, I have led the integration of men's, women's, juniors, football and futsal in Canberra with over 18,000 players. This has included facilitating a change process that led to the winding up of the Women's Association that I'd helped form in 1977. Under the unified body of capital football, ACT Football Federation, I'm confident that women's football is well catered for, and we have strategic commitment from the board and from every committee for the integration and respect for women in football in competitions, development, participation, high performance programs. And this is the highly successful Canberra United, which is the only team in the Westfield W League to go through a W League season undefeated, under the leadership and coaching of Jitka Klimkova, where I took a risk to bring her to Australia to take that job. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to how we affect change for women. So questions as to whether or not we need integrated or separate structures for women, or how we influence and inform decision-making, must be considered on a case-by-case basis. But there's no doubt we need unilateral action for change. Cultural and social change may be more necessary in some associations compared to others, where integrated structures, that is working within the tent, may already be effective, whereas separate departments may be required in others when it comes to player development and league management. Regardless, facilitating change is not a finite process. Really effective strategic reform must evolve from one year to the next. This can be achieved through implementing clear action plans that commit football to making a greater difference for women. In order to do this, we need to support and increase the number of men who are champions of change. We need to empower more women to be leaders, and we need to engage more experts in women's football to assist in the process. Ultimately, member associations of FIFA must invest more resources, including funding for women's football, to enable women and girls to fully realise their potential in the World Game, and for the World Game to fulfil its potential for women and girls. In order to lead the change, I'm going to provide a few tips for the beautiful game with a focus on strategic action. We need to be courageous and willing to take risks. In other words, be prepared to go outside your comfort zone. Dare to be different. We need to make commitments and persevere with our goals. Seek a mentor and other champions of change who can help in this regard. We need to be confident and build capacity to make decisions. Be able to implement decisions, even if it means rocking the boat from time to time. The hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rocks the boat. Communicate effectively and make connections through interpersonal and professional relationships. Once again, this is where a mentor, or even 2 mentors or 3 mentors, don't just have one, can help. We need to create positive and supportive environments, including implementing succession plans for the next generation. Aim for continuous improvement and ongoing education. Attend conferences, gather information, build knowledge, do more courses. And one thing that's really dear to me, celebrate successes when goals are achieved. Enjoy, promote, reward, and celebrate achievements. There is no doubt that the future of football continues to be feminine, that women's football and women in football can advance our sport like no other. No other. If FIFA means football is for all, then women in the world are ready to make even more valuable and significant contributions than ever before. How will you live your goals and dare to be the difference? Thank you very much.
And thank you so much, Ms. Reid, for your presence here today, your great words and advice for us. And I think a round of applause as well. Congratulations are in order to Heather. She was awarded a Member of the Order of Australia honour this year for her significant service to sport and as an advocate for gender equity. Congratulations. Well, so far, so very informative, I'm sure you will agree, and there is so much to think about after, of course, everything that you've heard at this juncture. I think that this calls for a short tea break, a short comfort break. So we've got a 30-minute comfort break now. There will be tea that will be provided just outside of this main venue. Please be sure to be back here. Let's reconvene at 11 o'clock sharp to continue with today's exciting program. Thank you. Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to continue with our program for today. All right, really fantastic to see that everyone is back and on time. Excited to continue with today's program. Well, I'm sure you enjoyed that tea break just to discuss what it is that we were talking about earlier on, and also another opportunity to continue to socialize and interact. This really is such a wonderful, wonderful gathering of the football family across the globe. Before we continue, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. During the rest of the proceedings, we are going to be having members of the executive committee leaving us, and that's because they've got an important meeting to attend. So thank you so much to the members of the executive committee that have joined us and showcase their support for this symposium. So don't be surprised if you see them getting up whilst we are, of course, underway and making their way through to the meeting. Thank you so much. So without a doubt, one of the key cogs of ensuring that the women's game reaches its full potential lies in governance. That is the next topic that we are going to be discussing. Our next speaker is, I think, the perfect example of women taking the reins and playing an active role in this. One of only 2 female presidents of a member association. This FIFA Executive Committee member is of the FIFA Executive Committee member. She is the president of the Turks and Caicos Islands Football Association. She is a member of the CONCACAF Executive Committee and very, very active and involved in the organization of a number of women's football competitions. She is another sterling and shining example of women taking the reins in the beautiful game. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage now Ms. Sonia Biename.
Good morning, welcome back all. I think it's always fantastic when we can come to an event such as this where we can meet new people, we can network, we can share information, but it's especially refreshing when you can look around the room and see so many females in the room. And I think before I get started this morning, we should all give ourselves a round of applause, and the males should clap even harder for us. My task here this morning is to share with you my perspective of a female decision maker. I feel proud to stand here as the president of a football association in one of the smallest countries in the world. I'm even prouder to stand here as one of only 2 female presidents in FIFA, the most dynamic organization in the world. Diversity is at the heart of this global organization. Diversity of language, diversity of culture, diversity of economic status, and diversity of style of play. What unites us is a common love for a game played with a ball that is symbolic to our planet. What unites us is a deep respect for people as individuals and each member country as deserving of an equal vote. As a woman who is president of an FA in a small nation, I am a beneficiary of FIFA's recognition that talent comes in all forms, and a global organization that is steeped in tradition, having power and influence concentrated is, if one wants to be realistic, expected. What is, however, uncommon is the organization's self-generated decision to search for female talent, to nurture this talent, and to discourage any unfair barriers placed in the way of this talent's rise through efforts to positions of prominence. To be the president of the Turks and Caicos Islands FA is to be an example not just to women, but also to anyone on and off the field. That each individual is central to the growth and vitality of the sport we love so much. But more importantly, it means a member of an advanced guard of outsiders being encouraged and rewarded for passion, administrative acumen, and commitment to hard work. But it comes with its challenges. Traditionally, this is a male-dominated sport. The history of the sport reveals that it was one that was primarily played by men. It was one where administrators and decision makers were men. Women were regulated to doing functionary clerical work, answering the telephone, filing the documents, and getting coffee and refreshments. Yes, I hear some people snickering, and I think we all can attest to that. And while we have taken gigantic strides in eradicating that monopoly and eliminating the bias and prejudice that was endemic in the sport, it is not all gone. There are some residues still lying around. The scent of tokenism lingers in that we are still questioned and regarded as token appointments. Appointments made to satisfy a quota, and that is the biggest disadvantage and hurdle a female president faces. To be taken seriously, to convince the naysayers that we truly and legitimately earned a place at the table, to convince them that we have the tools, acumen, intelligence, and experience to effectively run a football association, to level the playing field, whether it is artificial turf or grass. But I must confess that my situation has been more fortunate than others, and that my rise to presidency of the Turks and Caicos Islands Football Association was actually genuinely encouraged and embraced by enlightened men. Men who recognized the role I played as General Secretary over the years at the TCIFA. Men who allowed me to grow in an infant football association and who allowed me to flourish in my role. Men who actively supported my candidacy, and that was the advantage that I had, that most of us are not fortunate to stand here and share with each other. Having taken the mantle as the president of the TCIFA, my role at the FA is multifaceted. We are a small country with a small but enthusiastic football population. Part of my objective is to grow and develop the sport, and this involves introducing measures and programs aimed at achieving that objective. I recognize the values and necessity of delegating work, but I am nonetheless a hands-on president. And this sees me from day to day liaising with members of my FA's committees on a frequent basis and rolling up my sleeves to do what is necessary on the day. Most of the persons that give up their time are volunteers, and one must lead by example. If you are asking a person to volunteer of their time, then it is imperative that you are willing to work hand in hand with that volunteer to accomplish the mission. In closing, I must make mention of what I believe is the most gratifying part of being a female president of the TCIFA. It is not so much the accolades that come with the title. It's more significant than that. Much more. It is the opportunity it gives me to raise the profile of my country, to advertise it, to make it known who we are. Yes, we are on the map, because most times I get the questions like, where are you located? I don't see you on the map. It's that tiny little dot. We're very small. We are there, and it's always important to let people know where the Turks and Caicos is. For people to invite them to our shores, and for them to learn more about the Turks and Caicos Islands themselves. It is the motivation that I give to the young women of my country, the motivation to crack the glass ceiling, to strive for the highest, to not accept just serving the coffee or answering the phone or serving refreshments, to know that this game is also their game, both on the field, off the field, and in the boardrooms where decisions affecting the games are made. To let them know that they too belong and they matter. It's a conversation that I have regularly with the young women at home. And it is a conversation that they can embrace, feel, and touch. As in me, they see the reality of what they can achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a captive audience in front of me this morning, an audience made up of numerous member associations, an attentive and a receptive audience. And so it would be amiss of me if I did not use this opportunity to issue you with a challenge today. Well, not really a challenge, but an invitation. An invitation for recognition that will lead to change, for us to recognize the value and contribution that can be attained by having women involved in the administration and decision-making positions in football. And once we recognize that, ladies and gentlemen, we should all pledge to change. Let's have a mini revolution. A revolution that encourages change in attitudes towards the involvement of female in the sport, both on and off the field. I am asking you to start with your own member associations here today. Do what you can there. But it's not just a numbers game. Don't just appoint a person because she's a female. Appoint her or elect her because you recognize that this person possesses the ability and qualifications and the know-how and skill level and have all the tools that are needed to assist in the development of the game in your country. The fact that she is a woman should be an afterthought. I hope everyone here will make this pledge and see it through, because while I am happy to be a pioneer here, I will be much happier if I am not just one of few women in the football administration. Please make me happier today and adopt and embrace the challenge that I put before you. It can be done, and it starts with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia, and continue the wonderful work. Keep dazzling. I think we are all going to take you up on two of those invitations. The first one, the invitation of recognition, and of course, an invitation to discover the Turks and Caicos Islands. Yeah, I will definitely take you up on that. Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, Sonia really spoke about something that was very, very important and extremely pertinent on her journey to where she is now. The fact that she also had the invaluable support and recognition from her male peers. Now, this brings us to our next speaker. I think one thing that was discussed at the symposium in Germany was the great strides that Japan, as a football federation, was making in accelerating growth of women's football. The results? Well, they are clear for all of us to see. The defending champions once again in the finals on Sunday. So clearly there is a lot that Japan is doing right in terms of women's football. We have with us a former footballer for the national team and now vice president of the Japan Football Association, who'll tell us a little bit more about the importance of empowering women and what it is that Japan is doing right. Please welcome to the stage now Tashima Gozo-san.
So my colleague, executive committee members, and the member associations president, vice president, general secretary, women's directors, distinguished guests, good morning. My name is Kozo Tashima, vice president of Japanese Football Association. It is my great honor and pleasure to be given an opportunity to speak to you today. I thank Mustafa and Tatiana and the FIFA team. Especially, there is my first mission after I became a FIFA EXCO members. Let me start with the significance of the FIFA Women's Symposium to be held in the conjunction with the Women's World Cup final. Let me share with you my experience regarding FIFA Women's Symposium. Today is not so many president and general secretaries, unfortunately, but on 5th, yes, maybe a lot of presidents and general secretary here. Because why FIFA invited president and the general secretary with women's director? Because we have the key to decide to the activity and the budget of every member associations. And it is very important for us all to have more understanding on the women's football and support it. In Japan, we established Women's Committee, Women's Department. Current our president, Mr. Daini, when he became president, he appointed a female vice president, Mrs. Mabuchi. She's here in charge of the women's football. Of course, as a women's director, Mrs. Noda, also he appointed. There are the sign of our associations to support women's football. 8 years ago, in 2007, I attended the same women's symposium here as a general secretary, one day before in the World Cup final in Shanghai. To be honest, I have to admit that my interest in women's football was not enough at the time. I'm so sorry. As a general secretary then, this gave me a big impact and really impressed when I heard the presentation of the FA England 8 years ago. This is a picture that shocked me. On the right-hand side, everybody knows it's David Beckham. And as it is said, who is a Faye White? She's a captain of the England national team. Through this presentation of the FA, we can tell that the FA is working on the promotions of women's football without spending a lot of money in a creative way. There is every reason for the team to be winner. That is the same for the losers. In the Women's World Cup in China, 2007, Japan was in the same group with England. We drew 2-2, and England went through to the tournament, but Japan could not. With the picture, I could understand why England team was winning. Next, this is a picture is Arsenal, London. Arsene Wenger in the middle. And the wonderful players like Thierry Henry, Vieira, Bergkamp. Can you see the women's players in between men players? England Premier League made it mandatory to have a women's teams in the club, and they are working on a promotion of women's football. Their fact have also shocked me as a general secretary. In my position then, I could not take on much activity for promoting women's football. I was thinking more of men's football. I had to decline many proposals from Mr. Wade at that time's women's director, because we were short to budget for women. That's what I say. But if you take a look at this example of England, I was so shocked and felt ashamed to realize that we could have done promotion and supported players are not in favorable environment, supported women's football even without budget. Then I was much encouraged to support women's football, where players are not in a favorable environment. Then we took action immediately. This is a picture. In the center of Coach Sasaki is a current our national team head coach. And the other one is Okada, is a former our national head coach, 2010 national, South African World Cup for men. I learned very much from the symposium. That is very important to show our support. Next, let me talk about why Nadeshko, our national team, women's national team, is in the final. We are very much looking forward to the match on Sunday. In 2007, former our head coach and the former women's director, Ueda, introduced to Nadeshko vision. This is made in accordance with the JFA accreditation, the JFA declaration 2005. Nadeshko vision had three pillars. The first one, women's football to be one of the major sports for Japanese women. In the club, in Japanese sports club, for the women, basketball and volleyball has much majority. To develop the game more, it has to be a major sport for the women. Our target of number of registrations of women's players, 30,000, but not yet achieved. And secondly, Nadeshko Japan to become a top-class national team in the world top 5. They actually became best 4 in the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games. So this goal was achieved the following years. Now, and then we changed to the target. Target was 2015, we won the Women's World Cup. But they could win 4 years a little bit earlier. Thirdly, help players develop their personal quality to measure up to global standard. In order to develop the individual quality, more emphasis will be put on youth development and coaches education. Also, we supported players to play abroad. And our motto in the players' development was attitude of Nadeshiko. Nadeshiko is a special flower for Japanese and expressed the inner beauty of Japanese women. The attitude of Nadeshikos have been said to be enthusiasm, inner fortitude, bright, and gracious. We set it as our motto to develop players who have those four factors. Besides, after the Beijing Olympic Games in 2008, there was an article on the FIFA website featuring women's football, not for the featuring for the Japanese football. It was an interview with Mrs. Tina Toine, a TSG member of FIFA. I will read. I bowled over by Japan. Their team produced moment of magic and really win over a crowd. They are small and agile, immensely fit, technically strong, and good at the both end of the field. The Japanese have made us sit up and take notice, and they have their own unique style too. And they may still have a little too much respect for the big names, but they'll soon shake that off. This encouraged us a great deal. With these words of support, we are convinced with our development policy and what we have been doing. We continued our development. Continuity and consistency are the key for the development. As a result, I would say our team could win the 2011 FIFA Women's World Cup. Let me introduce the words of a famous educator in 19th century in Japan. Those who have no dream have no ideals. Those who have no ideals have no plans. Those who have no plans take no action. Those who take no action achieve no success. Thus, those who have no dream achieve no success. So important thing is to have a dream and goal. If we do not have one, we don't know where to go. As far as we have a goal, we can proceed to the direction. We have been cherishing this, and we do cherish it now. Some may say, Japan, you can do it because you have a lot of money. But it is not about the money. It's you really want to do it. You can make it by creative way too. Even Japan, the ratio of women players are just 5% of all. Football is such fun and easy game to play for everywhere, everybody, so everybody can enjoy the game. Football is for all. In order to develop the game nationwide, it is natural and crucial that women be involved. There may be some area or countries where Women are yet to be privileged to play football for social or regional reasons, etc. But we can say now, for example, we see more and more women play football with hijab, scarf, and Muslim countries too. We are on the right track of the development of the game. I observed a lot of Middle East countries women's football. Iran Football Association already started a very good women's development. They build up the academy. And as you know, next year in Jordan, there is under 17 Women's World Cup in the first time in the Middle East countries. We are looking forward to the final. USA and Japan, we are so honored, are playing again. This is not a coincidence. There are teams like Germany, France, England, who had a little lack of fortune and could not move forward. But these countries have been steadily working on the grassroots, youth development, and the coaches' education, so they came to this final stage. I am looking forward to the wonderful game. Let me close my presentation by showing you our slogan, Dream, Courage to Achieve. Thank you very much, and all the best for your women's football. Thank you very much.
What a great, great presentation. And I think it was Moya that said it earlier on that progress is not an accident. It's the result of planning and hard work. And I think you can certainly see that coming to fruition for Japan. Great, great work, and all the best of luck on Sunday. A round of applause once again. Well, I really think that our speakers have done an excellent job of giving all of us some mental fodder now, just in time for the first of our breakout sessions, and an opportunity for all of you to add your views and further discuss the topic of governance. Now, you've all received, as part of your information packs, of course, the breakdown of exactly which groups you're going to be in, and also the rooms that you are going to be utilizing to meet and have your discussions. We do have individuals that will be assisting any of you should you need help getting to those particular rooms and getting stuck in terms of your discussions. We've also broken down the topic and giving you a few pointers, a few questions that you can ask each other, ask yourselves, just to help guide the conversations in your breakout sessions. How should women's football be governed in the member associations and in the statutes? What structure would be the ideal one given the size, level, and existing structure of your member association to improve women's football? Another question, what kind of synergies should be used from the existing men's football structures? And what policies should be in place to involve more women in decision-making bodies? We are going to be inviting as well the members of the football committees to join any of the groups that they would like to, and of course give their input and share in the discussions as well. Now we're going to allocate an hour for this breakout session. So 12:30, the session will be ending. After that, we will be enjoying lunch, and then we'll reconvene back here at 2 o'clock, please. So let's make sure that by 2 o'clock we're all back in this arena to continue with the program and to get involved and enjoy the podium discussion. Now, in terms of the podium discussion, which is, of course, where we're going to be collating all of the different, the results of the conversations that you're about to be having. In the podium discussion, we will have up here on stage from Canada, Candace Chapman. She'll be involved in the podium discussion. From Tahiti, Ethel Taputa will be up on stage. From Colombia, Selena Sierra will join us for the discussion. From Moldova, Natalia Sebon will be here. From Singapore, Julie T will join the discussion. From Algeria, we've got Aradia Fetul, and from England, Sally Horrocks will be part of the discussion here. And all of that will be, of course, after lunch. So for now, enjoy the breakout sessions. Please make sure that it is productive. We would like to get as much of your input as possible. And we'll see you after lunch.